On a frozen February night in 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out to conquer the icy ridges of the Ural Mountains. They were strong, fearless, and prepared for anything the wilderness could throw at them. Or so they thought. They had no idea they were walking into a place where the rules of reality seemed to bend. A place not meant for human eyes. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, saw the mountain as just another challenge to overcome. But the strange events started long before they reached the summit. Compasses spun wildly, refusing to point north. Their cameras started to malfunction, capturing blurred, distorted images. One of the hikers, Zina, kept complaining about a strange, low-frequency sound she could hear, describing it as a deep heartbeat coming from inside the snow itself. At night, they watched mysterious lights red, blue, and green dance rhythmically across the dark horizon. They dismissed it as military testing. It wasn't. Weeks later, when rescuers finally reached their campsite, they were met with a scene of pure horror. The tent had been violently ripped open from the inside, as if the hikers had clawed their way out in a desperate panic, and the hikers were only half-dressed. The track simply vanished into the vast, empty snow. When the bodies were found, the mystery deepened. Some were badly burned. Others had bones shattered with a force far greater than any storm could produce. And perhaps the strangest detail of all, their watches had all stopped at the exact same time. 3:17 a.m. The official investigation concluded with a chillingly vague phrase: death caused by an unknown compelling force. Unofficially, every investigator who set foot on that cursed slope reported the same unnerving feeling that they were being watched. For over 60 years, the world has searched for an explanation. But deep in the classified archives of the Russian Ministry of Defense, there are documents sealed until the year 2089. These files contain photographs that were never released to the public. They show the mountain slope glowing faintly in the dark, as if something massive and alive was stirring just beneath the snow. The locals call this place Kulat Sayakal, which translates to the Mountain of the Dead. Long before the Dyatlov incident, the native Mansi people shared a stark warning: do not stay after nightfall. The sky opens there. Some dismiss this as a myth. 4 ancient Mansi legends speak of a gate, a circular door buried deep within the mountain that hums when the earth freezes. They say it leads to a world below ours, a place they call Agarthian, in a realm that mirrors our own, but is far older, darker, and awake. This isn't just folklore. In 1990, a retired geologist named Petrov claimed he found a metallic arch buried under the ice. Just 2 kilometers from the Dyatlov Pass, he described it as perfectly circular, too precise to be a natural formation. When he struck it with his ice axe, he said it vibrated and emitted a low, resonant tone, like a giant bell ringing deep under the ground. 2 days later, Petrov vanished on his return trip. All that was ever found was his backpack. The zipper was fused shut, as if by intense heat. A year after that, satellite imagery revealed a bizarre heat signature emanating from that same perfect ring of warmth in an otherwise frozen landscape. After the image was briefly made public, it was quietly removed and replaced with white static pixels, erased from the record. Then, in the mid-2000s, another group of hikers tried to retrace Dyatlov's route. Their footage, recovered from a damaged camera, showed something extraordinary. A perfectly circular light hovering in the fog, just above the snow. It flickered 3 times, then vanished. A few minutes later, their camera stopped recording on its own. They all made it home, but none of them ever spoke publicly about what they saw that day. Some believe the Soviet government knew about this phenomenon all along. They theorized that the military was conducting experiments with high-frequency energy deep underground, trying to harness a power they didn't understand. and accidentally broke a seal in ancient structure built not to keep people out, but to keep something in. Others suggest the government didn't create it, but discovered it. The Hun has been desperately trying to contain it ever since. And that, my friends, is where the mystery only gets deeper. What do you think happened on that mountain? In 2018, a whistleblower leaked a memo from this secret geological program. It detailed a circular anomaly within the Ural bedrock, emitting rhythmic magnetic pulses every 11 minutes. The report's conclusion was chilling. The activity matched auroral light events directly above Kolotsiakal, also known as Dead Mountain, the very place the Dyatlov hikers met their tragic end. When independent researchers tried to verify these claims, their equipment went haywire. Compasses didn't point north. They pointed directly at the mountain. Ditto clocks started skipping seconds. Microphones picked up what sounded like whispers. And drones lost GPS signal the moment they got close. One researcher later said, "It's as if the mountain doesn't want to be seen. It bends time around itself." Locals have always avoided the area, whispering stories of strange occurrences for those who dare to stay overnight. Disembodied voices echoing in the snow, silent lights appearing in the sky, and even shadows moving inside the ice-like figures trapped behind a glass wall, just waiting. This has led some to believe the Dyatlov hikers didn't die by accident. They stumbled upon something. They triggered something. When their tent was torn open from the inside, maybe they weren't fleeing a storm, but something that had crawled out of the mountain itself. One theory suggests an entrance to a mythical inner earth kingdom was sealed there thousands of years ago by beings far more advanced than us. This gate, buried beneath layers of ice and stone, was hidden from humanity. But in 1959, a group of ordinary students just happened to camp right above it. And their presence woke it up. Imagine that moment. The howling wind suddenly stops. The snow begins to glow with an eerie light. A deep vibration rises from the ground, like a colossal machine humming to life. Then, the ground itself splits open, and a cold, white, endless light pours out. Within that light, a shape begins to form, not quite human, not quite alien, but something ancient. Something that remembers. If anyone survived, they would have seen things the human mind was never meant to comprehend. A vast hall stretching beneath the mountain, filled with frozen columns pulsing with a faint, vein-like light, and a sound that felt like language but wasn't made of words. Then, silence. In 1963, a classified black box recording from a Soviet weather aircraft that crashed nearby briefly surfaced. The pilot's final transmission was recorded via losing altitude, something bright below the ice at S opening, and then only static. Decades later, explorers used deep penetration radar and mapped a massive, hollow sphere almost a kilometer beneath the site. It was made of an unknown material that reflected a perfect echo. They couldn't drill any deeper. Every machine jammed at 400 meters. The project was abruptly cancelled. The files sealed. A scientist involved, Dr. Kuznetsov, disappeared in 2004. He left a single note on his desk. They didn't die in vain. They warned us what happens when we wake the mountain. Truth, hidden for over 60 years, might be this. There's something under that mountain that was never meant to see daylight. The hikers didn't just find it, they released it. Now, every few winters, the pattern repeats. Auroras where they shouldn't be, magnetic storms that disrupt satellites, and hikers who vanish without a trace, always near that same cursed ridge. 2. The official explanation is always coincidence. But if you were to go there at night and listen very carefully, you might still hear it. A low, steady pulse from beneath the snow, like a giant heartbeat. Waiting. They opened a door that should have stayed closed. And while the world pretends nothing happened, the mountain remembers. and it's still waiting. Thank you for watching. If you found this as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. Stay curious.